why don't we start with questions that you guys have about the assignment?
So for me, I was wondering, the descriptive essay, is that meant to like set up our persuasive essay? And like, are they like connected, or do you want them like completely separate, as in like one should not relate to the other or build off of the other?
They should be addressing the same subjects, but they're not necessarily set. One is not necessarily setting up the other. So let me go over a few notes about some of the things that I've seen. I've looked through several of the submissions that came in. Oh, Emily's got a question in chat. For the persuasive essay, are you wanting us to find and cite sources, or is that optional? Excellent question. And I had that question emailed to me earlier today. David, I think I included you on my response. I hope you agree with that. What I said basically is we want you to cite these in journalistic style. So this is not a situation where you would have like a reference list or a bibliography, but in journalistic style, you would say, Bob Jones of ABC Company says, quote, blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, quote, blah, 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 says Bob Jones. And so we're citing the source in the sense of it's a direct quote, and we need to know who that direct quote is from. But it's not like a research paper where you would put the citation in a parentheses or something like that. So there you go. David put an example right there in the chat. Right. So that's journalistic style citation, and that's just fine for this assignment.
And one thing is, we in journalism, we call it attribution as opposed to, citing a source. And when it reads here, Bob Jones said, it's always name said or last name said. It's never said Bob Jones. It's always Bob Jones said. Okay, and end the period after said, and the sentence said.
Well, good. So one of the things that I do want to reiterate, and for this assignment, I've got I don't know, 2 or 3 different people that emailed me their assignment ahead of time and asked for review. David, I think you've got a few of those as well. Want to just reiterate that we are happy to do that. Please feel free to send those ahead of time. Don't wait till the last minute. So your assignment is due tonight at 11:59 p.m. Don't be emailing us right now saying, will you review this for me before I submit it? Okay, give us at least 24 hours. More like 48 hours would be preferable, or even more. So, if you can give us 2 or 3 days, then we're happy to go through it and really, give it a good workout, and be nitpicky through there, give you some suggestions on how to improve it. And I will tell you, I do this in other classes as well. I always offer to my students, if you want to submit ahead of time for a review, I'm happy to do that. And what I have noticed is that those students who take me up on that offer do better by far across the board than students who ignore that. So don't ever hesitate. We're not going to think any less of you. In fact, probably think more of you as a student because you're taking advantage of the resources available to you. So please feel free to do that with any of your assignments. we're happy to look it over, give you some feedback, and give you enough time to make changes before you submit it for the final assignment.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't just, stress enough to please give us at least a couple of days. Tom's real busy. We have other students beside you, and I've got 120 student employees at the Collegiate Media Group I'm in charge of. So we get really, really, really busy. So if you give us that time, we'll get back to you, and we'll give you the feedback that you need.
Yeah. So let me dive into a list of things. I've got about a half a dozen things that I noticed are pretty common errors in the ones that I have reviewed. Haven't reviewed all of the submissions, but several of them. And I've had a few people email me some things. So I'm just going to go over these. Please jump in with questions, or if you need clarification on anything, please just jump in and ask. We want to have, a good open conversation with you here tonight. So the first thing that you want to pay attention to is making sure that you do all the specific things as far as formatting that the assignment asks for, including labeling which essay is which. That's one of the biggest problems that I've seen, is that two things happen. First of all, there's not enough clarity between the two, and then they're unlabeled. And so now I'm having a hard time understanding if I should be grading a persuasive essay or the other one, a descriptive essay, because they're too similar and they're unlabeled. So make sure you label them, make sure you put them in 12-point font, double spaced, Times New Roman, all those specifics. We will ding you for not following those instructions. And then secondly to that, make sure that the persuasive essay is different than the descriptive. I'm seeing a lot of them that are pretty good descriptive essays, but they're labeled as persuasive essays. And they're not that, the two aren't that much different. A persuasive essay is going to be more like a television commercial, right? TV commercials, ads of any type are persuasive. They're trying to persuade you to take an action, buy a product, something like that. And so the language that they use is similar type of language that you're going to want to use in your persuasive essay. You're trying to get someone to do something. Okay. So make sure you're really clear in your language with that. The next thing that I've noticed is there's some grammatical errors specifically related to past tense verbs. And you want to make sure you're using these correctly. I'm going to use some examples from ones that I've seen, and if anybody's here tonight, I'm not calling you out. I'm not naming names, so not trying to make anybody feel bad. So we'll just keep quiet on whose these were. But one phrase that I saw was, "Have you ever went for a walk?" We don't went for a walk. We go for a walk. Or we may have gone for a walk, but went is not correct. Saw another one, "I have drunk." That's also incorrect use. Drunk, drink, drank are all common connected words, but we don't drunk, we drank. Have you ever drank is the correct usage there. And then also the usage between is and are. Is connects to a singular individual or a singular entity. Are is the plural or connected to plural, but make sure that, and this gets a little bit tricky, David has talked in the past about how a team is a singular entity, right? So remember that if you're talking about the Wildcats that went to the Elite Eight, it's a singular entity, okay? The team members, there are multiple team members, but there's only a singular team. So all of those grammatical things, make sure you're paying attention to those things. And those are all things that really are indirectly related to the assignment outline. The other thing that I'm noticing is a lack of word efficiency. And many times that gets caused by the great use of the overuse of first person or second person pronouns. So words like I, me, mine, those are all first person. Second person are you, yours. And I see way too many of those dropped in. Okay. Start looking as you read through your paper before you submit it, as you're proofreading it yourself, start looking for how many words you can eliminate and still get the message across clearly. Anytime you see a preposition at the end of a sentence, that's where I went to. That to at the end can be eliminated. Okay. The drugstore is where I went to. If I say the drugstore is where I went, that's just as clear, fewer words, and it doesn't get muddied up with unnecessary words. Okay. Same thing with those first and second person pronouns. Okay. And then I'm seeing a lot of bland words. So if you remember in the assignment guidelines, it asks for words that really help the reader connect, that bring the reader into the place, the environment that you're describing. Bland words like go, get, did, do, things like that. Dress those up, okay? You say, my favorite vacation spot to go is blah, blah, blah. You don't just go somewhere, right? You might venture somewhere. You might explore. You might, I don't know, David, help me out. What are some other verbs that we can drop in there?
Yes, lots. There are. It's a whole plethora of them. You know, yes, explore. You know, this venture. You might want to use the word fly. You might want, you know, it depending. Again, think visually. Always think visually. Are you hiking? You know, are you snow trekking?
Trudging would be a great word if you're going up a hill on a hike and you're tired.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, one of the greatest tools you can use when writing descriptive work is pull out a thesaurus. If you don't have a hard copy, you can find one online. Pull out a thesaurus, and that'll always give you so many different you know, variations of, you know, of words that you can use. And it's a really great way to increase your vocabulary too. And to create your own voice as well.
So on that note, what I would suggest that you do as you're writing is your first draft, I don't ever expect, and I don't think David expects, that the first thing that you write down is going to be a perfect essay, and you're going to submit that, right? Writing, you have to, the biggest part, David has said this before, the biggest part of writing is editing. So we expect that you'll go through this several times before you get it right. So the first step is to get the thought out, right? Get your thoughts clearly out on paper. Then, well, or on digital paper, right? Get them written out. And then as you go back through that, start looking for those bland words like go and did and, you know, things like that, and say, okay, how can I dress this up so that the words I use really give a vision of what I experienced or what I want my reader to experience.
Yeah, and think about the vision, yes, and also think about precision, using words that are more precise than go. Okay. And again, for that, you can pull out a thesaurus. And another good way to do this is not to just sit down and start writing, but sit down and start brainstorming. Brainstorm a list. You pull up the thesaurus if you want, brainstorm a list of words, and play around with them and insert one. And then if that's not the most precise visual image you're looking for, swap it out with another one. I do this all the time, even for my own writing. And I've been writing for, I'm not going to say I'll age myself, but I've been doing this for a very, very long time. I still do it. I still do it.
So I think those are the notes that I've got. Just things that I noticed as I went through some of the assignments that I've seen. So try to overcome those things. So let me review those real quickly once again. First of all, label your essays so we know which one is which. Make sure there's a clear difference between persuasive essay and the descriptive essay. Check for grammatical errors specifically related to past tense verbs. Watch for word efficiency. Watch for the overuse of first person and second person pronouns. And look to get rid of bland words. That's what I've got.
Any questions coming up before I go into some examples? Any questions at all? You can put them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so then I'm going to show you some examples of what we're talking about. And this is all my own writing. Okay, and you know what I'm going to start with? The email that went out yesterday. That's what we're going to start with to help you to conceptualize the difference between persuasive and descriptive. I got to share my screen. I got to make sure I believe I got this pulled up. Okay, and we're going to ask for audience participation here. Okay, you can all hold on. Oops. I need to. All right, there we go. All right, everyone can see this? You can all see that? Okay, good. I'm going to ask someone to read us, all of us, this first paragraph. Who'd like to volunteer, or I'll just, before I volunteer someone.
I can do it.
Okay, who's that? Because I can't see everybody.
Oh, that's JP. Sorry, it's a little dark.
JP. It's okay. All right. Take a read, not too fast. And here's what I want everyone to do. While JP, and thank you, JP, for jumping in. As JP is reading this, I want everybody to listen. So don't just read the words, JP. Listen to the words. Okay?
Yeah, you got it.
All right, go for it.
All right. David Levy and Tom Hallaq invite every MC 132 student to attend a special Zoom session to ask questions about the course in assignment number 2. Levy and Hallaq understand that attending Zoom sessions can often make the difference between earning a B or an A on the assignment.
Okay,
When students
stop right there. Okay, I'm going to ask you to stop right there. So in those first 2 sentences, what are we trying to do?
trying to lure you in.
Trying to lure you in, right? Exactly. Okay, continue.
Yeah. When students earn A's and B's, they're more likely to feel good about their ability. That self-confidence shines through when they're interviewing for internships and jobs. Plus, it gives their parents reasons to brag about their child's success. Believe it or not, professors enjoy bragging about students' successes too. So do the right thing. Attend the meeting and begin building bragging rights.
Okay, all right. So Emily wrote in the chat, set up your position on the topic. Yeah, exactly. And Emily, what is our position on this topic based on only this paragraph right here? And anyone can chime in on that, either in the chat or you can unmute yourself. I think, yes, okay, so that students should attend the Zoom meeting. Right, and what kind of things, what kind of specifics are we using in this paragraph to get students to attend the Zoom meeting? What kind of points are we making? What specific points are we making?
Grades, I would say.
Grades, okay, what else?
And jobs as well.
Jobs, okay, what else?
An opportunity to ask questions.
Opportunity, what else? There's one more.
The bragging rights.
Yeah, you get the bragging rights, right? Exactly. So here we're trying to make very specific points, okay, and hopefully that we can use these points to convince you to show up. Now, if you notice, Tom talked about writing efficiency earlier. If you notice, okay, where do you see first person I or mine or your, second person your or you, anywhere in this graph?
It's not there at all.
Okay, okay, good. It's not there at all. So we're not starting off saying something like, I think that if students attend if you attend an MC 132 Zoom session, I'm not using second person you. I'm not saying I think you should, first person I'm not using any of that. Okay. And here's another thing, talking about writing efficiency, and it comes right in the middle of this sentence here. When students earn A's and B's, they're more likely to feel good about their ability. I can tighten this up even more like this. Students who earn A's and B's feel better about their ability. And so I'm just taking out unnecessary words, additional words that don't need to be there, and getting across the same exact point. Okay. And this is what we mean by persuasive. I'm using very specific points to see a subject a certain way, hoping that it'll be compelling enough for the reader to say, oh, well, if I can get all this benefit out of it, well, I'm gonna show up. Okay. I want those bragging rights. I want to increase my chances of getting an A instead of a B, or a B instead of a C, or an A instead of a C, or whatever. I want that self-confidence too. And I want my parents to feel proud. So these are the points that we're trying to make. I'm not describing anything. I'm not painting a scene. I am using very specific points, okay, to convince you to see an issue a certain way. Now, we're going to ask someone to take a read of the next two paragraphs. These are totally separate from one another. One is not building upon one another. One is just taking a completely different approach. So let's kind of read through that approach. Who wants to read this for us? Who's going to volunteer? Or I'll volunteer someone.
Somebody with a great radio voice, because we've got several of them on.
Oh yeah, we do, don't we? Okay, I'm just going to volunteer someone. Paige, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and take a read of it, right? Beginning with
Okay.
8 p.m. And nice, steady voice, not too fast.
Okay. It's 8 p.m. Wednesday, April 12th, and David Levy hovers over a pile of papers covering his birchwood dining table. Holding a cup of pomegranate tea in one hand and tapping a pencil against his forehead with the other, he stares at himself on the screen of his MacBook Pro computer, waiting.
Okay.
At 8:02.
I'm going to stop you right there. Okay.
Okay.
So, with as much as you've read so far, what do you see as the differences between the first paragraph and this one?
It's describing how you are.
What specific words do you see?
Your birchwood dining table and pomegranate tea.
Birchwood dining table, pomegranate tea. Yep. Mhm. Yep.
MacBook Pro computer.
MacBook Pro computer. Yep. Anything else?
Your pencil and pile of papers.
Yes, exactly. And if you notice up here where it says David Lee hovers, I'm not sitting at a table, with the pile of papers. I'm hovering. What does hovering look like compared to the word just sitting by a pile of papers? What's the visual difference?
You're more slouched over.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about by finding the precise word, that I'm more slouched over as opposed to sitting up straight like this. Maybe I'm kind of, like that. Okay. Real good. Okay, Paige, keep reading. Continue reading, please.
At 8:02, he rises from his chair to clean the frying pan he used to saute the red chard he ate for dinner 20 minutes earlier. Hey, David, a voice echoes from across the room. He turns his head. More than 980 miles away, Tom Hallaq, with his bald head and mustache, sits in a dark basement surrounded by concrete walls and the stench of his foot fungus after snow skiing down the Black Diamond Runs at Park City, Utah. His toes sting and his thawing fingers can barely feel the keyboard of his laptop. Still, he manages to log into the Zoom meeting waiting.
Okay. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
Together, the two men sit staring at one another, waiting. They wait.
Okay.
Don't our students?
I'm going to stop you right there. Okay.
Okay.
So what do you see? What visual image do you see in the next graph that you just read? The one starting 980 miles away.
You can imagine Tom sitting somewhere with cold and thawing out toes and fingers near his laptop in a dark basement.
Okay. Right. Anything else?
His physical features,
Like what?
his bald head and mustache.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Emily says it mentions stench.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes, exactly. Tom, got that stench in your foot fungus from all that skiing you're doing. Right. So here, right. I'm using the word stench. What's the difference between the word stench and the word maybe smell?
I feel like stench sort of implies bad, and then smell is more neutral, and then like scent is more good generally.
Right, or aroma, where you might associate that
aroma
more with food as opposed to a foot fungus, right? Exactly.
James, I'm going to push you a little bit. What's the difference between stench and stink?
Stink is a verb usually. pretty much always, I would say, or I would use it that way anyway.
Like this, to stink up the room. Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like usually if I'm using stench, I would say the stench of something. Stink would like exist on its own, or it's something that would be done.
Okay, is there an emotional difference in hearing those two words?
Stench sort of seems worse, I think, still.
Yeah, it does. Stench is kind of nasty. I mean, something can stink and you can tolerate it, but if there's a stench in the air, it's just nasty, right? And so, even though this is kind of a nasty example, I think it's valuable to really consider. You know, David was talking about precision in our words. Is it more precise to use the word stench than simply to use stink? You know, stench kind of conjures up a little bit more emotion to it. And that's one of the things that we're trying to get you to do in your writing is, you know, be precise and find those words where there's an emotional connection that really describes what it is you're trying to illustrate through your language.
Yeah, and so a couple of things here. So just with these two paragraphs by themselves, the descriptive paragraphs alone, okay. Forget the together part right now, okay. What, just those paragraphs right there, nothing else. What are we asking the reader to do?
The anticipation that students will join the Zoom meeting.
Well, does it say anything about students in there?
Not in the second one. In the first one it does.
Okay, so
Or sorry, in the first example, in the persuasive it does, but not this one. Not necessarily students, but it's just that they're waiting, I guess.
right. And so again, take it out of context. Okay, you've never seen this before. All right, you didn't even see the persuasive one before. Okay, take it out of context. Is it asking you to pick a side? Is it asking you to join in and you know, say, hey, you know, and join in an argument? Is it doing any of those things? Is it trying to convince you?
I think it's just one of those like picture this moments, like they want you to like picture it in your head so that you can kind of like imagine what they're talking about.
Okay, so yeah, this is not, that's exactly right. It's a picture. It's not asking you, the reader, to do anything. It's not trying to convince you of any point. It's just painting a picture using precise visual words that help you to see, you know, what the writer is trying to describe to you. And that is the difference, okay, between one of the differences between a persuasive piece and a descriptive piece. Now let's go down here. Let's finish it up. All right, let's finish it up. And I wanted to just make, someone made the point before, earlier, when talking about the descriptive paragraph, and that was, it's just showing, got it, Tom. I'm just showing, we're just showing Tom, we're showing David as you were, or as you are. Someone made that comment, showing as you are. And that is what a descriptive paragraph does. We don't necessarily have to do that in a persuasive. All we have to do is make points and make them convincing. In a descriptive piece, what you're really trying to do is you want to take the reader and put the reader, when I wrote this, I want to put you right in at that table with me, like right next to me so you can see it. I want to put you in that dank room with Tom's stench foot fungus, so you can be there and experience it for yourself and smell it. Okay, that's what we're. Sorry, Tom. That's
okay. I'll let you slide this time, but
this is what we're trying to do. But now let's finish it up. Let's read those last two short graphs, starting with together. Who wants to read that for us?
I can read this.
Okay. All right.
Together, the two men sit staring at one another, waiting. They wait. Don't our students want to earn A's? Tom said. If they want to increase their chances, David replies, they will be here. 8 p.m. Oh, wait, that's the time. Okay.
Right, 8 p.m. All right, yeah. Yeah, that was for the Zoom session. Okay. So right here in this place, is the writer trying to convince you of anything? This gets tricky. Okay, this gets tricky. And the reason why it gets tricky is because as the writer, I'm not telling you what to do. I am sitting back and I am letting my subject, my sources, make the persuasive argument. Okay, and I'm doing it descriptively. Don't our students want to earn A's, Tom said? I'm not trying to make a point. These two men are having a dialogue among themselves. Okay, they're not talking to you, the student. They're not saying, we want you to be here so you can earn an A. David isn't saying, hey, if you want to increase your chances, yeah, you should be here. No, these are just two men having a conversation, okay, amongst themselves. As the writer, I'm just using the details of that conversation to actually make the point. I am not telling you what to do. Instead, the writer sits back, shows, doesn't tell, and lets the reader make his or her own decision. Oh yeah, I think I'll show up to this. They're waiting for me. I can see this. I can see them waiting. They're waiting for us to be here. You make your own decision. Okay, I don't have to tell you to be here. Okay, I can just share with you, in this case, the conversation that we're having. When you write a descriptive graph, you don't always need to have a quote. Okay, but this is a way where I can address the same topic, okay, and get my reader to think about coming without having to try and persuade you like we do up here. That's the difference between a persuasive graph and a descriptive graph.
One other thing I'll note here, David, if you'll let me interject quickly, is on that sentence, if you'll scroll down real quickly, I love where he says, together the two men sit staring at one another, waiting, they wait. So when we talk about word efficiency, this goes against that, right? The last 4 words in a row, 3 of those are the word waiting or wait. Not very efficient when it comes to word usage, but it's very effective in describing the wait. They're just not waiting. They're waiting, they wait, right? There's a long pause. They're just waiting. Time is just hanging there. And so, things like that can be very, very effective in descriptive writing.
Yeah, exactly that. You think about a movie, maybe it's an action movie, and you're in the middle of it, and at some point, nothing's happening. You hear the music, whatever, the eerie music, there's nothing, and but you see the actors there, the characters, something's coming. Kind of the same effect. Okay, you're waiting for it. You're waiting for it. So again, it's just, using words. So that's, again, just, the example between the two. And that is why I put the email out yesterday as I did, so that you can, we can talk about the differences here tonight. Okay. And again, there's
David,
yes, I know you have to go.
I've got to jump out, but I'm going to put in the chat the secret phrase. If you will put this phrase in the subject line of your email to me, I'll toss a few bonus points your way. So, secret phrase is now in the chat room, and I'm going to sign off, but David has some more valuable information for you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, I'm going to stop screen share unless anyone has any specific questions about this one before I show you something else. All right, who can read us this one? Who wants to read us this one? Give you a second to volunteer, or I'll volunteer you. About Vanessa.
I mean, my English is not that good, so
That's okay. That is all right. You're in a safe space. You're good.
okay. The
You-
struggling,
Take your time, okay?
the struggling comrade dragged his broken wind down Gulf Boulevard until Ralph helped. A blossoming naturalist with his fluffy brown hair, mustache, and zoology degree, pulled his car alongside, blocking traffic, and scoped him up. He dropped the beer to the local beat for minor surgery, and then the local fishing pier. The salty baitfish operator promised to keep held in fish until the beer recuperant. He found help the next morning. Fella, I got you beer number 2.
Okay, so this is a descriptive paragraph. Okay, this comes from a magazine article that I wrote a little while back. And what are the specific details that you see in this opening paragraph? Anyone?
Struggling, dragged, and then a broken wing. Blossoming naturalist, and then floppy brown hair.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Mustache, zoology degree, blocking traffic, literally every other word, I feel like.
Right. Okay. And so that's what we're talking about. So, and when we talk about precision, when you look at and scooped them up, I could have written, picked up the bird, carried the bird, lifted the bird. What's the difference between picked up and scooped?
Scooped is more descriptive and
Yeah,
specific.
Yeah. What's the difference? What makes it more specific?
It evokes a certain motion of like getting underneath and coming up.
Exactly. Like a scoop of ice cream, you got to
Mhm.
get under it, right? To get the ball of ice cream onto the cone. Yeah. And, I could have written, he went to the bird. Yeah. He took the bird, I said, I use, he drove the bird. And not just the bait fish operator or the person who, runs the bait store, but the salty bait fish operator. Notice I use that adjective right there. What kind of visual image does that create?
I guess like a salty bait fish, like salty can either describe his personality, or salty, it's like he's been in the ocean so much that like salt is like in him at this point. Like it is the way he smells, it's the way he would just kind of seen altogether. Like he is just, salt is part of him at this point because he's in the ocean for so much.
Right. That's excellent, JP, and I can accomplish that with just one word. I don't have to write the bait fish operator who spent years working, by the ocean, and I can just accomplish all of that. That's what we're talking about, word efficiency. I can use one word to help the reader to visualize that essence that you just described. So that's really what we're talking about. And I can tell you, I'll share with you that when I sit down to write something descriptive, I already know, and I've been doing this for a long time, that most of the time, okay, the first 40 minutes or so, whatever I put down on the page, I'm not going to use it, probably not. Okay, I'm trying to get just the ideas on the page, and then I'm going to really work with the words to get rid of the things that don't create that visual image. I'm no different. A lot of writers will start out just to get the ideas down on the page. They'll get the words out, and they're not descriptive. They're those generic words that Tom was talking about earlier. But then when I sit down and now I really want to create that vision, that feeling, that stench, for the reader, I'm going to sit down and look at the words carefully and say, okay, what can I swap out to create that precise image that I'm trying to do? And I will tell you that takes time. That takes time. And so just as a rule of thumb, let it be a signal to you if you're going to, sit down, last minute and, just trying to churn these things out. You're going to struggle. Okay. You'll struggle with the words if you start early. That's part of the writing process. I will tell you, as a professional writer who's highly published, and be writing a book right now, very descriptive. I agonize often over every single word. I'll go back and have multiple drafts sometimes of just a single paragraph. I want to make sure it's just right. And I know also that as students, we're not the only class that you have. You have other classes. Some of you work. You have other responsibilities, and all kinds of things. Time management and starting early and giving us that 2 and 3 day heads up. That time to take a look and give you the feedback that you need. That all helps. It'll all help you. That choice is up to you. We can't help you with that. Those are choices that you make. Okay. But what I suggest you do, this paragraph, first of all, is on Canvas. I have it up there in week 2 for you to take a look at. Refer back to the email that I sent out yesterday. Okay. Look at, just to help you, look at as a model, maybe print it out if you can. Have it as a reference point next to you. So when you're writing your persuasive piece, you can kind of model that. And when you're writing a descriptive piece, you can model that. It has to be on the same topic, all right? But like you saw in the descriptive piece, I didn't give the topic away until the very end, okay? So I'm just painting the picture, right? And that's what it is, painting a picture. We don't have colors, we're not painters, we use words, okay? Can I answer any question for anybody? Anybody whose cameras are off, I can't see you, but. Okay, all right. Then in that case, go have yourselves a good, couple days, and we'll, be in touch soon. Reach out if there's anything we can do for you. All right. Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Hope you found this helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah.